as artificial intelligence advances, continuing to put pressure on the observe, orient, decide, and act cycle, escalating and accelerating the pace of war, what sort of pressure is going to be placed on that doctrine of keeping a person in the loop, and how do you protect it in the face of that pressure?
Well, this is a very complex subject, and we end up there pretty quickly in many of these conversations. General Mercier and Howard has also said a couple of things. One of which is that hyperwar, by definition, is going to create an acceleration of operations in ways we can't now even perceive, in my mind. And as that occurs, from the capacity to detect the enemy, to identify the enemy, to get a positive identification, ultimately to make decisions necessary to deliver or to dispatch an autonomous system to surveil and engage that target. The faster we get in that loop, you called it the OODA loop, the decision-action loop, artificial intelligence is going to shrink that more and more and more until that circle begins to really collapse, so that we have just seconds sometimes to respond. I think we're going to have an issue with the human in the loop for some period of time. I can say with pretty high confidence that a number of our peer competitors are not worried about this. And one of the things that we talk about at Brookings when we write about artificial intelligence, whether it's about healthcare or the financial sector or military, is we use a term called ELSI. What are the ELS little I? What are the ethical, legal, and societal implications of artificial intelligence in this sector? It has to be preeminent and predominant for us as Western democracies, that the human has to be in the loop at some point. Now, the consequence of that is when the human is in the loop and your peer competitors have taken the human out of the loop because they don't feel as compelled ultimately to be in compliance with the laws of armed conflict, which are very clear about the use of force and the capacity to discriminate combatants from non-combatants and proportionality. If they've taken the human out of the loop, by definition, they'll be able to move faster. So we're going to need to think in very, very serious ways, analytical ways, about how that human-like dimension is in the kill chain, ultimately to give us the kind of ELSI orientation that we have to. And it might be that we're driven at some point to a level of capacity and specificity within the algorithm itself, that we have trained that algorithm and we geo-fence the capabilities of that system to deliver ordnance in a way that gives us, as best we possibly can, the presence of the human in the loop. Otherwise, we'll just be slow. And in a hyperwar scenario, being slow means you'll be defeated. So we have to really work this issue out. And it is a issue we spend a lot of time on, frankly.
So if I could just add, I think when we talk artificial intelligence, sometimes people think we're going to go to a free-for-all, as some of our competitors may indicate. I think this is going to evolve, and we'll get to that point. But the initial steps we have to take on machine-to-machine interface or autonomy is making the human more effective, and to speed us up as fast as we can. And I think that's where we'll retain an advantage of doing that, because we'll include the human dimension as we go through.
Let me come back.
So I think that's very, very important that we think how we do it. There's already cases today of where we can already increase our speed tremendously with keeping humans in the loop. But it's how we build it, how we practice it, and then how we develop it ahead of time. So I think that's where I would say we'd go.
And I'll add to what Howard just said. We're going to find ourselves in a hyperwar environment where we're going to be selecting and specifically training officers.
Exactly.
To be able to exist in that environment and training them and educating them in ways where they have a bias for decision making that can occur at very high speeds. We have to modify the human, if you will, in terms of our decision making, neural pathways, in recognition, prime decision making, and intuitive decision making. We have to make that an inherent part of the human that's in the loop. And that's going to require us not just to perfect the algorithm itself, but also to perfect the officer and the individuals that are in the loop as well.
If I can just add something, because when we are talking about military issues and artificial intelligence, we'll always think about targeting and delivery of force. We will conduct a main exercise for NATO in November in Norway, and we will test for the first time a real-time with sensors on the soldiers, real-time measurement of stress and everything. With this kind of sensors, we can detect a soldier that is wounded, and then with a certain level of artificial intelligence, we can deliver medical care to this soldier. We do not need a man in the loop for that. If we make a man in the loop, we will slow down the process, and we will save lives. That's the same for logistics. So artificial intelligence and the man in the loop, it depends on what we are talking about. And there are many issues that are not the delivery of force, but where we do not need a man in the loop. And then looking at what John Allen has said, that we can look at the man in the loop or on the loop. Sometimes we need to have the possibility for a leader, providing that he has been trained, as it has been said, that decides that I will not be in the loop. But he must decide it. This is what we call the man on the loop. And then he can decide that this time I let the machine do because I need a huge level of responsiveness or not.